Hey, shalom, shalom, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Ray Bash's Ramblings. Today I would like to talk to you about honoring our veterans. I think it is of the utmost importance, especially for Jewish people, to observe and to honor the veterans on Remembrance Day if you're in Canada, or Veterans Day if you're in the States, or Memorial Day, for the simple fact that if it wasn't for the men and women who fought in the first two world wars, we Jews may not exist. We would have all ended up in the ovens. And it touches my heart every time I see a World War I or II vet. Every time I see them, I do my best to come up to them and thank them and let them know that if it wasn't for them, my people may not be around. They sacrificed their lives and paid the ultimate price for my people and my faith. I understand they were fighting for their countries and for their faith and for their religion and freedom and stuff as well, but it had a profound impact upon my people and upon my faith, because it was Hitler who was the one that was trying to exterminate the Jews. So I just got back from a beautiful Remembrance Day service here in Canada, and it really struck me the patriotism in Canada. A lot of Americans think that Canadians aren't very patriotic. There's not like a Canadian flag in every yard, but Canadians do have a deep-rooted, profound, ingrained patriotism to them. But I've noticed, for the most part in general, that Canadian patriotism is tempered with a healthy dose of humility, whereas the American patriotism, and I can say this because I'm an American, I lived in America for 20-some years, so I know this to be true, and I'm speaking in generalizations. I understand that not everybody's like this, but a lot of times the American patriotic pride can borderline and cross that line into arrogance and conceit, whereas I've noticed that Canadians in general have a more approach of humility to their patriotism. But I think it's very important for us to thank veterans, because many of them were drafted, and a lot of them also volunteered, but nonetheless they fought, and they fought bravely. They risked their lives for us. And in Plaster Rock, New Brunswick, Canada, in the village, on the square, the 11th of November of every year, we have a Memorial Day service, especially honoring what we call the 50 fallen. They were 50 men from that area who died in World Wars I and II. And their gravestones, most of them, the average age, they were in their 20s. My goodness, these kids had no idea that they were going to die. And that if they did die, that almost 100 years later, they would be remembered in such a fashion. Soldiers, especially sailors, have the sailor's mouth on them, and rough around the edges. But it's interesting to me that regardless of how crass and crude soldiers can be, that upon their death, they're remembered with honor, and it's almost as if those imperfections and flaws and sins disappear and are forgiven, because we remember that no matter if they were rough around the edges, that they were there fighting the war, fighting to save the lives of men, women, and children. And that makes all the difference. And I had the honor of meeting one of the few Canadian World War II vets who was actually in a prison camp, in a German prison camp, and it sounded to me a lot like a Nazi concentration camp. He was told, I was told the story how when he was captured, he had a candy bar in his pocket and he managed to hide it in a sock, because if it was found on him, he would be executed immediately. But once in camp, the candy bar survived, and he was able to break off small pieces and share with every single person in the camp. Sounds like a Holocaust story, doesn't it? But I shook his hand and I teared up, and I fought back the tears. My voice was wavering, and I said, "Sir," I said, "I'm Jewish, and on behalf of myself and my people, I want to thank you for what you did in World War II, because if it wasn't for you, my people would have ended up in the ovens." And he started tearing up and started to cry, and he says, "Yes," he says, "I realize that." And I said, "Sir, it's an honor to meet you." He was getting up there in years. He couldn't march in the parade anymore. He had to sit on the sidelines in the warmth of his car because due to his health. He felt a little bit left out, but it touched my heart how little children that was in, the Girl Guides and the Brownies and the Sparks come to him and visited him at his car, shook his hand, gave him a hug, gave him a kiss on the cheek, because he used to come into the schools every year and share his experience as a war vet with the kids, and the kids loved him. And so that touched my heart. But as a Jewish person, I just want to tell all the other Jews and Jewish believers out there how important I believe it is for us as Jewish people to honor the veterans, especially those of World War I and II who fought against the Nazi war machine that tried to liquidate our people. I try to greet and honor every vet I meet, especially World War I and II, because of, that if it wasn't for them, my people may not be around. But also for those that are in the Korean War, because it's often termed as the forgotten war. It's one of those little less known wars, and if it wasn't for the TV show MASH, a lot of people wouldn't, they would have forgotten that there was ever a war with Korea. The Vietnam vets hold a special place in my heart because they came back without honor, being spat upon, much like some of the Gulf War and Afghanistan and Iraqi vets who come back today. They come back without honor. You know what? Who cares? Regardless about the war. I don't care about the war. These people risked their lives. They were just doing as they were commanded, doing as they were told. They were just following orders. And you may not support the war. You may not agree with the war. That's okay. But I think it's imperative to honor and support our troops, honor and support our veterans, regardless of if you believe in war or not, regardless if you're against the whole cause of the war, whatever. I don't care. It's important to love, honor, respect, and pay tribute to our veterans. I think it's very important to do that. I'm by no means a pacifist, and I'm not on the other extreme. I'm not a warmonger either. But when there's, I'm a Maccabean Jew. In saying that, I mean that there are times, just as Ecclesiastes says, there's a time for war and a time for peace. If it wasn't for the Maccabees, there would have been no temple standing for Yeshua to walk in and to fulfill prophecy in. So it was, Jewish priestly warriors, fighters, soldiers, that partially we can attribute the fulfillment of prophecy to and thank them and honor them. That's what Hanukkah is all about, and that's coming up here real soon. But just a short little message. I'm here running out of time, but a short message just to express the importance of the observance of Remembrance Day, Memorial Day, and Veterans Day. Not only that, but to encourage others to do that and to send out a personal message to all the veterans that may be watching. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you for your service. Shalom and God bless.